We're here to talk about our new product that just launched called Power Trip. And it is designed to recharge your natural battery. So excited to have you all here. This was an invitation only education session. So really appreciate you being part of our community. My name is Tina Shim. I'm our Chief Marketing Officer here at Apothékary, and welcome to our virtual room. We at Apothékary, on the next slide, you'll see are here as a liquid herbal supplements company. And we believe the future of wellness is actually bringing some of the past forward. So we reach into our Japanese heritage and roots, and we bring forward Eastern medicine that has worked for thousands of years. Lots of herbs that are just well known, documented, and tested as being really effective. And then we pair it with modern ingredients, with modern clinical tests, and we make sure that it's available to everybody to help address total systems. So you may know our number one product, which is Blue Burn. This is to help boost your metabolic systems in a really healthy way. And today we're here to talk about Power Trip, a way to naturally recharge your natural battery with caffeine-free energy. And I'm so excited to introduce to you our fabulous speaker. Matt, the next slide, you'll give a nice little intro for you. Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt is our scientist in-house. He's an R&D scientist and also an East Asian medical practitioner. He's licensed in so many things, and particularly in traditional Chinese medicine. And he has just been a wealth of knowledge, both for us and for our customers and for you, our community. And we're very excited to have him here today. He did formulate Power Trip. So he's going to share with you a little bit about how it works, some key ingredients, and then how you can use it paired with other Apothékary products and just integrate it into your life. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for that really nice introduction. I appreciate it. And hi, everybody. I know some folks I've seen before. Some folks are new. So just to let you know, questions are fabulous. Shelby, who is our director of all things R&D and regulation and just basically in charge of all the amazing stuff, she is also going to be answering some questions in the chat. So drop in, ask questions, throw them in the chat. We'll do whatever we can to get you an answer as quickly as possible. It's pretty casual. So yeah, well, we're talking about Power Trip, and kind of in a nutshell, the way that this all came about was that basically folks were asking us for something like this. They needed something that does more than a coffee or a caffeinated drink or something along those lines. And so we kind of dipped into our wealth of resources with East Asian medicine and also just this amazing new wave of research that's coming out about things like nicotinamide mononucleotide or NMN, which we'll talk about, and are using that to really try and answer what everybody was asking for, but build energy from the ground up instead of just trying to eke out the little bit that you have left in a new way, which sometimes it feels like coffee can do. Although I love coffee, I'm in Washington State, so it's always a part of my day. So I will not badmouth it too much. But yeah, Power Trip is so interesting because it's probably one of our most focused formulations where everything that we put in there is really designed around one goal, and it's to help build resilience through energy and help build your energy, like I said, from a core level, which honestly, East Asian medicine is really good at because it sees the way that we produce energy a little differently than we would in like a biomedical sense. But we didn't leave the biomedicine out. We capitalized on that as well, which is where you see this NMN come in. And we're going to go through and break down each one of these ingredients, by the way. So just know that some of these you may be familiar with, wonderful. Others might be kind of new. But we're going to go through all this, especially the NMN, since it's something that's not as commonly seen, but is definitely up and coming. The other thing we'll talk about is these adaptogens that are built in. We have the rhodiola, the galangal root, and the ginseng. Those are there with purpose because they each work together to kind of build a different level of energy. We'll talk about this too, but one of the secrets of adaptogens is they work best when they're stacked. Oftentimes you'll see them delivered by themselves, and that's fine, but you miss so much if you're not stacking them. And so we'll get into why that works and how it works as well, from both an East Asian medical sense as well as a kind of a biomedical sense too. So starting at the top of the list there with NMN, that abbreviation NMN stands for nicotinamide mononucleotide. It's a mouthful, hence the abbreviation. And what it is, it's a nice stable molecule that we can use as a precursor or like a starting material to build something called NAD plus, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. That NAD plus is what we really want, but it's something that is not easy to take. Like if you take it orally, it pretty much has a lot of trouble getting to where you would want it to go without getting broken down in our digestion. And so if we supply the precursor, this NMN, we can kind of give the cells what they need to build what they want. And that's the goal. And so this NMN supports the production of NAD plus, and that NAD plus supports really like the very base fundamental level of how cells produce energy for themselves. And so when we say cellular energy, we mean it. That's not like an over exaggeration. This is also involved in metabolism. And anytime that you're helping these cells produce energy for themselves, you're going to help with things like natural repair mechanisms, stress responses, and just that overall kind of feeling of having enough resources to get through your day. And so one of the things I think is really important, and we really lean into a lot at Apothecary, especially for, I mean, all of us, but Shelby and I, is we really lean into the research a lot. And so there's a lot more to it, but this is just one example I popped on this slide that, we're saying that this NMN can get turned into NAD plus in the body, but there's research that shows that is the case. And so we're not just saying it. And there's more articles on this, but this was just a great one to pick, where it was a 12-week study. Adults taking this NMN that we put in our Power Trip showed measurable changes in the final product, NAD plus, that they wanted. And what's cool about that is that dosage of 250 milligrams a day, that's what's in our NAD plus at its recommended, or excuse me, our Power Trip at its recommended dosage. And so our little graph here kind of shows you what's going on. I know this is a lot. We're going to kind of break this down a bit more. But basically, when you take the Power Trip, it's supplying the NMN, it turns into this NAD plus, which then is kind of acting as like opening the fuel lines for your little cellular powerhouses. And really what they end up doing is producing this thing that you may have heard about, ATP, which is like the dollars and cents of your cells. Like they spend those dollars in ATP to go do work. So like whether it's literally flexing a muscle or thinking or talking or breathing or your heart beating, the dollars and cents they spend are this ATP. And the reason that we supply the NMN is to help your cells support their ability to make that final like currency to do something. And so we'll get in here like a little bit more and break this down because we've been talking about cells. And so to get a little bit more specific, like if you've had this in the past, bear with me. This is like a super duper Cliff Notes crash course of like cellular biology in a nutshell here. But we've been talking about this. Oh, thanks. And sorry, I looked at the comments. That's a really kind comment that you had there. What we've got going on here is like a general cartoon of a cell. And the way you can look at it, like the way our cells work, is imagine your house. And so the cell membrane is like the wall, the outside walls of the house. So, right, it keeps like, it literally defines like outside from inside. The nucleus we put on here, because it's talked about a lot, is like where you would store, it's like your library where you store all your how-to manuals and like information on how to fix things and make things, right? So you hear about that a lot. That's where your DNA is stored, and that's kind of what I'm referencing. And there's a lot more in there, but we're focused on these little critters, the mitochondria. They are the things that produce energy for your cells. And what's really cool about them is they function a bit like a hydrogen fuel cell. If you're familiar with those, what that even means is that they're extremely efficient at what they do because your cells need a buttload of energy. That's totally a technical term, but a buttload of energy constantly. They do not do well if they don't have enough. And you can experience that just feeling like low energy, right? But what those mitochondria do is they take in the raw materials that we eat and when we breathe and that sort of thing. And through a whole variety of cool processes, turn it into that ATP, which we then go and spend to do things. And that's like that energetic currency. All your cells have these, like, basically all your cells have these little structures to make energy for themselves. So these are ubiquitous in the body. So you will find these little mitochondria wherever your cells need to be making energy, which is basically everywhere. So you know that it's not just like one place that they're experiencing this. So kind of like we're really kind of drilling down here. Where does this come in? And again, why do we use the NMN? So we looked at adding the ingredient NAD plus, like the one we're trying to make, from the get-go. And the problem is your digestion likes to break it down really fast. And not only that, but it doesn't play well with other molecules that sit on a shelf. So like if we were going to put it into, glycerin, which is the base of our tinctures, and then add adaptogens and whatnot, it's just highly unlikely that it's going to stay together in one piece. And that's okay because its role is really specific inside the cell. Whereas if we give your body the precursor, this NMN, which is this like molecule on the top, your cells know what to do with that. Like that's nice and stable. It won't break down. You can eat it, like quite literally. And your cells can take it and go like, oh, like I know what to do with this and I can convert it into the thing I want, which is what's really important here. Because if you know that, if you see people taking NAD plus, kind of the best way to take it is through injection, actually, to bypass uh, the whole digestive process. And even then, it can be kind of tricky. And so that's why we, again, leaned on this precursor, this NMN, which the research shows it's doing what we want it to do. Oh, yeah. Somebody's saying it. Yeah, it burns like nobody's business. That is 100% true. You will have better ways to spend your time than getting the NAD plus injections. They're not always user friendly. And so this is just kind of bringing it all together, and kind of also explaining even more, like, because I feel like you deserve an answer of why we don't just use the NAD plus right off the bat, because we really thought about this. And this kind of puts it all together too. Like this NAD plus, that plus sign that you see on there means it's charged. And it literally is like static electricity. Like if you take a balloon and like rub it in your hair, which I can't do as much anymore, but if you can rub it in your hair, it'll like stick to things. And it's because it has that charge. Well, NAD plus has a charge like that. And I know this sounds weird, but it's extremely small. But because it's charged, when it goes to get into the house, like that cell, it like sticks to the outside walls and has trouble actually getting in the door. On top of that, it then has to go in the house, go find the right room, which has its own doors. It's still going to be really sticky, which is the mitochondria, and get in there and do it intact. And this is after it's gone through the gauntlet that is your digestive system. And so now you can see why we were like, okay, our body knows how to work with NMN. It has a wisdom built in. It knows what to do with this molecule. We're going to build it with that precursor so we know it'll get to where it needs to go. And it'll play well with the other things in the formula also. And so this is just kind of like a quick little like cheat sheet. I needed it for myself. But basically, when you eat the NMN, when you ingest it through Power Trip, it becomes the NAD plus. Your body knows what to do with it. Your cells use the NAD plus, which helps the mitochondria, which I know I kind of left this out, but you use glucose as like your raw fuel in your mitochondria, if you will. Like, I mean, it's broken down the cells a bit more, but it all comes together to make energy. Like the punchline is this all works together to make energy. And I was under this illusion before we really started digging in this research that because this pathway is so essential, critical to every moment of a cell's life, that we would produce NAD plus at the same level throughout our lives. And I was wrong. As we age, we tend not to produce enough of most things. It's the joy of aging, as I've learned. And NAD plus is one of those things. And so as we go through our day-to-day lives, whether it's physical demands, aging, stressors, that sort of thing, can really actually make a difference at a cellular level, of course, which I feel like everybody here knows. But here's just some science behind it, but literally impact our cell's ability to make energy for itself. And it's not, I mean, you don't stop moving, but what we're trying to do is make things work as well as they possibly can for as long as they can, because that's sort of the definition of longevity, is really increasing your health span. So enough about NMN. There's also some really killer herbs in here. Um, so I wanted to explain this a little bit more because I mentioned the stack of adaptogens and where that comes in. And my background's primarily Chinese medicine, but there is a nice corollary with Kampo, Japanese medicine. They like so many things, they harmonize and works well together and have their own ways of explaining things. And so I'll jump into kind of both explanations because they both work. So in Chinese medicine, there's we kind of break up the organ regions into jiaos, like upper, middle, and lower. So upper is going to be heart and lungs, middle is going to be like stomach and pancreas and spleen and liver, and then as you go lower, it's going to be like small intestines, large intestines, bladder, kidneys. Pretty straightforward. The reason why that matters is because herbs in any system, Compo, TCM, Korean systems, they have organs that they affect, directions, if you will, things that they do. And when we look at kind of addressing how energy is produced, in either Compo or Chinese medicine, it requires all three of those regions to build energy properly. And I'll explain a little bit more, but that's why we picked these three different adaptogens. Rhodial affects the upper, ginseng, like good old Panax ginseng, affects the middle, and then galangal goes to the lower. And so if you were only needing to kind of like build and tonify one region, then taking one adaptogen will do the trick. And that's why some people take like a ginseng or rhodiola and like, wow, it's amazing, because they're amazing herbs. But most of us kind of need more help than one. And so we addressed all three because there's absolutely no harm. And it actually gives that deep, like stamina type energy if you get all three built in. And this is going to work with that NMN, which is like working at like the cellular level. What's cool about Compo is instead of looking at necessarily like regions or structures, it takes more of like a substance-based view in the sense that it's like it organizes things by like organs in terms of what they produce for you. And so chi or ki, the energy that you produce, often is associated with the upper part. Ketsu, or like the blood, it's the red stuff in your veins, but it's a bigger idea. It's like the nutrition in your body, the proteins that your blood's carrying, electrolytes, that sort of thing. So it's more than, I mean, it's blood, but it's like a big idea. And then when we get to like the fluids, that's going to be like lymph, interstitial fluid, sweat. You can name a whole bunch of fun fluids, right? But that's things that are not blood, but are fluids and are by like kind of definition a little different, often associated with that lower part of the body. And so how this kind of fits in is we need all three to get the core energy produced for us, to do it with the best possible job. And kind of what we have here on the left with this slide is it talks about vitality. Like when we really are when we're trying to do our best for people in like a Chinese medicine sense or a Compo Japanese medicine sense, we're really trying to find a balance and a harmony with all three of those regions, right? No one is more important than the other. They're all essential and they all deserve care, right? And so, how this kind of fits in with biomedicine loosely is like when you think about like the upper organs, that's where like our lungs, we breathe in oxygen, we remove CO2. We don't often think about it, but our lungs are a nice waste removal organ. Of course, our heart moves blood, which carries oxygen all throughout the body, among other things. That middle part where you're like stomach and pancreas and spleen and whatnot, that's where we bring in like the food-based fuel. And I say glucose because that's like the primary kind of like the textbook fuel for your cells is sugar, right? They can certainly do more than that, but I'm just using glucose as the example because that's where we start breaking down food and making it available and absorbing it because definitely some of the small intestine functions are there. And then I know we don't often think about it, but the lower organs, besides absorption, are also waste removal organs. And it's sort of like the engine of a car, I guess you could say, where how well it runs depends on like how quickly and easily fuel and air get in and how easily exhaust gets out. And so we want to make sure that your waste removal is not going to also be part of that problem. If it is, that's why we have rescue bloat, and it's great for that. But we kind of want things to be like flowing smoothly. And so it takes all three in order for you to get the best possible result from what you're taking, essentially. And so what's kind of cool about this is now that we've talked about it, is you have two different options because our team, when we were developing this, had a lot of fun screwing around with it because I don't think there's anybody I've ever met that couldn't use an energetic boost, especially these days. And so there's two ways you can go about it. You can either take like one dropper full 3 times a day, like space it out. If your system is more like that nice sustained smaller doses throughout the day, or if you're like, I need to wake up and I need that bang in the morning and I need to kind of just get going, you can take all 3 droppers right at the get-go first thing in the morning for like that extra big boost. So you have some room to play with this depending on what your system tells you. Just listen to your body, right? Like if you're like, I'd rather have the low sustained dose because I don't do well with any big hits to my system, try that first. Or if you're like, yeah, I need the bang. Like I'm gonna have my coffee and I need all 3 droppers because I'm busy as hell and I need that to get me going. We'll do that too. What's really cool about this stuff is you have some room to play here for sure, right? And make it yours because one of the things that's so important to us at Apothecary is the idea of ritual because that rhythm is built into every single fiber of our cells, right? Everything like we need to be awake, we need to sleep. There's a restorative time, there's an active time. And so finding what works for you because your ritual is like your energetic fingerprint. We want things that can fit into that for you. And so you can play a little bit. We have suggestions, but you're the one that gets to really make it your own, which we really like. And so some combos, some ways you can stack these because Power Trip by no means has to stand on its own. It can do a lot of things. So one of my favorite combos actually is the Minecraft Power Trip combo because Minecraft is so awesome with the herbs that it has in there, like lion's mane and whatnot. It's all about trying to build flexibility and really like open the pathways so that way your mind can work efficiently and your focus can come feels like it comes easily and whatnot. Well, now you add Power Trip into the background, and it can be awesome for kind of sustaining that energy that sometimes long tasks, or like if you're just parked working on something for a long time, you get both kind of ideas where he's like kind of a mind opener, but also like an energy producer all in one when you can do Power Trip in Minecraft. Or when you do something like Blue Burn. So Blue Burn's awesome because it's really meant to build into this metabolic, like optimize like your metabolic outlook. And it's God, it builds in such an amazing level of flexibility from a metabolic standpoint that we're kind of aiming for. And so you can like turbocharge that because sometimes it's like you need more than the flexibility, more than than that kind of adaptability. You also need a little fuel in the tank, right? And so they can just like really, those two in particular work great together too. And then every phase. I know this one might not seem immediately intuitive, but when I've had the joy of working with so many women in my practice, and one of the things that they would often share with me is right around ovulation and of course right around menstruation, your energy goes in the toilet because of course your hormones are having massive shifts. Your body's asking a lot of you. Like you're literally having these major shifts. You're getting rid of blood and tissue. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on physically, right? And it's a big ask. And that can turn you into somebody that just feels like the volume in terms of your energy, like somebody just turned it down. And so every phase is there to really work with your natural like endocrine rhythms and help with that support. Power Trip can come in there and really boost up that base level resources when you need it. And especially, gosh, there's so many different needs as women move through their reproductive life, but especially around like perimenopause as well. I talked about menstruation, but perimenopause, my gosh, that's another time when energy is deeply needed because that's another huge like series of changes for a variable amount of time depending on the individual person. And so these are just some ideas of stacking. They're not limited to this by any stretch. You could even keep it kind of simple too. Like maybe you're using like one of our single herbs, like lion's mane or turmeric would go great with something like our Power Trip, for instance, because you get like that concentrated bang for your buck. So you have lots of levels to kind of play and make it yours and have some fun. Um, but also like some things to expect with Power Trip. Um, so NMN is interesting because it's one of these things that like builds over time. So the more you take it, like the more consistent you are about it, the more you'll start to feel like that stamina build because things like caffeine kind of draw in a Chinese medical sense, draw from like your short-term energy reserves. NMN is trying to build up those long-term energy reserves. And so those long-term reserves take a little bit longer to kind of make replete, whereas those short-term can happen fast. So basically, the longer you take the NMN, the better the effect. With the adaptogens that we added in there, like the rhodiola, the ginseng, you'll notice those really quick, like really fast. And what's cool about things like ginseng and rhodiola is they help the now and the later because they do so much. But we know like NMN's great and it'll build in the background, but you need things that are going to work like now. You need energy like now. And so that's where that stack of adaptogens came from is honestly from just experience in the clinic and what compo and Chinese medicine have been doing for thousands of years before I was ever here. I was just drawing on what they taught me, and that was to stack these in the way that they are. So, a couple hours in, you'll notice support. I mean, if you start taking it, you'll know what I mean. Like it's awesome. I love it. And then as you start getting more time with it, letting it kind of work and start helping your body really become more resource replete, you'll start to notice a better feeling of resilience where it just feels like you can handle stuff a little bit easier, right? Like it's not magic, but it just feels like when you're asked to call up on those energy reserves to tackle something, they're there. They're there when you need them. And then 1 month and beyond, you'll start to see kind of that overall feeling of vitality improve, and you'll really have a good feeling of where Power Trip fits and how it serves you in your routine each day. Couple mistakes that we put on here too. A couple things to think about is give the bottle a shake. This one's interesting. It almost is like you need to give it a little energy, but like Power Trip, just give it a quick shake or two. It really does help kind of get everything ready to go for you. Um, Not listening to your body is a mistake, right? In terms of timing it or combining it with other things, always listen to your body, right? If it I love Power Trip, but if for some reason you take it and it doesn't feel like it's right for you, then please, stop. Reach out to us, let us know. But, I wish I could make something for every person in every place at all times in every way, but, it's not work. So just know that that works for you too, right? So if it doesn't feel like it's serving you, well, let's find you something else that does. And then the last bit is, of course, like if you have a complicated med picture, or if you're talking to people and they have meds in their picture for their wellness picture, have them talk to their physician, of course, because there are medications that don't play well with anything, honestly. And like some examples would be medications that are kind of classified as blood thinners, lithium, things of that nature. And so it's never wrong, of course, to just be like, bring the bottle in, bring in the website, whatever, just show it to your healthcare provider. If you have any concerns, any issues, anything like that, because they are the person that, of course, knows you best and can give you that best personalized healthcare advice. So, yeah, that should go without saying there. But last little bits, because I know I've been kind of rattling on for a while. This was kind of surprising to me, but not sort of, there's nothing like Power Trip on the market right now. There's nothing that stacks adaptogens the way we do, like this, just that alone. But there's nothing that stacks NMN and adaptogens together except for this product, not in this way. And so it's pretty unique. I mean, if we would have just given you a rhodiola ginseng and galangal mix, that would be pretty unique. But the NMN really takes it into a new territory, which is why what you hopefully will experience will feel unique as well. And so we're really trying to build energy at the core level. Like I said, you hear about the cellular level type of work. well, this is no joke. Like we are really able to approach things at a cellular level, and it's not just, lip service, which is really cool. But then we're also able to kind of grab a bigger picture that I feel like really East Asian medicine is so well equipped and so amazingly skilled at doing, where it reaches like the whole picture of the body using those adaptogens. It's one of the reasons I love it so much. And so I'll step back now that I've been going on for a while. And so please jump in, fire away at any questions, and we'll do our best to answer whatever questions you have left.
One of the questions that came up earlier, Matt, when you were talking about how much to use was and related to caffeine was whether or not you can do both. So can you drink
Oh, good
caffeine
question.
and take Power Trip together?
Yes, like there's no contraindications, but depending, everybody's caffeine intake is unique, is all I want to say, and a little different. And so all I recommend, which is what I always recommend, is, because I have coffee in the morning and I love it deeply, is just start with the lower dose then, right? Because there's no harm in starting with a lower dose and building up, just to see how it treats you. Because, I don't, just because I'm like, oh, it should be fine, listen to your body, but start low, go slow. That's always good advice. But yeah, you do not have to stop coffee, because what's nice about this is we didn't add in, there's no caffeine, right? We didn't add any caffeine. So it's not going to like, artificially give you a huge dose of caffeine. Matter of fact, we're trying to do the opposite. But no problem. And I saw just kind of that rolls with this a little bit. You can you take it on an empty stomach? Yeah, totally. Empty stomach's great. And the food with absorption could go either way. I mean, if it was a really big meal, that might actually slow absorption a little bit, because sometimes like the tincture will get kind of grabbed into the food a little bit. But honestly, you could go either way. I tend to take it like before meals, but that's just my vibe. So if you want to take it with, or if your stomach is asking you to take it with like a meal, go ahead and do that. Because as long as it's finding its way into your system, then you're doing it right. And yeah, like and then I saw about the drops. Yeah. So the dosing too, just to make sure I was clear, just hope I'm answering their question from the chat. But yeah, the dosing is gonna be like a full dropper, like so it'll be 3 full droppers per day is like the dosing on that. So if I misspoke or made it sound a little unclear, I apologize. But think like kind of our dosing with our tinctures is by the dropper. And so 1 full dropper 3 times a day, or you could do up to the 3 droppers once a day, like in the morning kind of thing, and just like power it home. So you can kind of divide it up however you think is best.
What happens if they end up taking more than 3 droppers?
Oh, good question. This is interest. This is an interesting philosophical question from a TCM sense, because and compost sense. And the reason I say that is because the entire goal of East, like Chinese medicine and compo, is balance. And that balance is in a static position. It's like a dynamic equilibrium, right? Because you're going to be up and down all through the day, but kind of like the ups and the downs hopefully will even out by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month kind of thing. And so more isn't necessarily better in that respect, because sometimes it may be the right fit, but it can also kind of interrupt that balance, if you will. And so, like, if you took an extra dropper, it's not something we necessarily recommend, but it's not like a catastrophic dosage of Power Trip kind of thing. I mean, you definitely have some room to play here, but our dosages are recommended because they know the reason why we put them in there is we know they're effective, and we know that they fall into what's considered like well well established guidelines for what is generally acceptable in terms of the amounts. And so I wouldn't, you know, I can't stop you. That's what I tell my patients. But our dosages, they're there because we think it's going to give you the best results. And that's why we would recommend like the 3 droppers per day. Um, and I know people have lots of different recommend or experiences with what they do and their backgrounds and stuff. So I mean, we publish everything that's you can see everything that's in there and whatnot. So if you have any more specific questions, especially one-offs, I answer questions for real. People send them to me a lot, and you can reach out to me, and maybe we can put our heads together if you have something really specific. And just to kind of bounce off that, I saw something about age. All of our tinctures basically are designed for the 18 plus crowd at this point. So adults, um, you know, uh, I would I would love the opportunity to work with kids in the future in that like with tinctures and whatnot. And so, as we move forward, who knows what'll be on our radar. But for now, this is an adult focused product. So 18 plus, for sure. Good question. Oh, because I'm reading in the chat here a little bit too. Can you get an NAD flush with this? I feel like I mean, anything's possible. But the dosage is it's unlike the injections. If you've had injections before, the dosage is way higher with an injection than it would be in our like our tinctures. And so it's more likely to give you that flush. Plus, it's like a direct hit. It doesn't get brought in through the digestion. And so I would say no, because the NMN, because it comes in as an NMN molecule anyway. So it's not like that activated NAD plus. Your cells have to do it. So I was thinking, I can't, I don't suspect that it would ever give you that flush. I can't, I'm thinking through the pathway. I can't say that it's impossible, but it sure feels deeply unlikely for you to experience that. And if you do have any concerns, again, just start slow and see how it treats you.
There's another
Uh,
question about potential side effects. It's just
mm,
more like what to look out for if, commonly known side effects.
yeah, good question. So, like with what's nice is, we stack stuff pretty well, and the way that these adaptogens work, they should hopefully help balance out the deleterious effects of one another. The reason I say that is because there's other characteristics to these herbs that we didn't discuss, with like temperature, for instance. Like rhodiola is considered cold in Chinese medicine, but ginseng is considered warm. So they tend to have, and I think that sounds weird, but they tend to kind of balance each other out, whereas galangal is actually considered hot, but it's in the lower part of the body where it should be. Yeah, so there's more TCM there. But you know, uh, people that have, anytime you are doing something to promote energy, whether it's, maybe you're taking like, it's a caffeinated drink or something like that. People that have a especially sensitive blood pressure, especially if they already are suffering from hypertension, just need to be extra cautious with anything like this. So not just Power Trip, but anything, especially if they're on some sort of medication or something like that. Again, go slow is where that comes in, and like that's our good rule of thumb. But honestly, unless you have some sort of obvious overt allergy, the literature hasn't demonstrated anything that is this, like we need to put on the bottle or whatnot as a warning. Caveat: if you are somebody that is worried about allergic reactions, if you are somebody that has had those in the past or has an unusually sensitive system, always default to your healthcare, your trusted healthcare practitioner, because they might be able to offer some insight based on their experience and your personal healthcare story that might give you some guidance there too. But typically, I mean, these are widely used at this point. So there'd be good information that would be easy to find if you have any big concerns. So hopefully that answered your question.
Looks like she'll be
Uh,
answering questions about storage in the chat. Thank you. Um,
Amazing.
I'm trying to see if we missed any others. I think we got it. Um, do you want to answer the question, the first one on the screen here about can I use
Oh
wine
yeah.
power trip
Oh
together
yeah.
the same day?
Yeah, sorry, I got so interested in answering these other questions. I apologize. Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. I wouldn't use wind down and power trip at the same time at night. They might kind of counteract each other. But no, actually it'd be a perfect combo because if you start out with like the way we would want like your cycle to go from an East Asian medicine sense is we want it to like boost and be more active in the morning and midday, and then naturally as a result find it's like kind of quiet and calm in the evening. That's like easier said than done in the world we live in. And so, yes, use the power trip in the morning, but oftentimes like that wind down is that nice ritual, that breakthrough that'll get you to like your peaceful place in the evening. Cause it's like I said, it's easier said than done finding calm these days, after a long day. And how long should I wait between taking Power Trip and Blueburn? You can take them at the same time. There's no problem in our book. So, like I said, if you have any concerns, go slow, space them out to start, or just start with your Power Trip, especially if you're familiar with Blueburn, so you can see how Power Trip treats you, and then you'll have a better idea of how they'll play together. But we don't have any concerns. Quite the opposite. Like you're totally good in terms of the stack. Matter of fact, we really like that. So. Yeah, and I'll leave this here because I think I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. But yeah, any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you all for coming and for being engaged and asking Dr. Matt questions. We will be sharing a link to this via email. So we'll send it to the email you registered with by the end of the day. And in the meantime, we've got a special code for everyone who joined us that you can use on our website on apothecary.com to save 15% on your Power Trip order. So thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day and get ready to power up, right, with Power Trip.